I never thought the smell of someone else's cologne on my wife's pillow would become the point where everything I believed in for 7 years would start to collapse. My name is Gary, I'm 33 years old, and I work as an auto mechanic in Arlington, Texas. My shop is located on Roosevelt Drive, and I specialize in repairing old Ford Mustangs. It's been my passion since my teenage years. Back when I was 16, my old man and I restored a '69 Mustang Boss together in our garage. That car taught me everything about engines, about patience, about the satisfaction of bringing something broken back to life. When he passed away 5 years ago, I kept that Mustang in pristine condition in my garage, a reminder of the man who taught me my craft. Linda, my wife, worked as a secretary at a small law firm downtown. She's 31, and when we met 8 years ago at a barbecue thrown by mutual friends, I thought I'd met the woman of my life. I remember that day clearly. It was a hot July afternoon, and she wore this blue sundress that matched her eyes. We talked for hours about everything and nothing. She laughed at my terrible jokes about carburetors and timing belts. By the end of the night, I had her number and a feeling in my chest I'd never experienced before. Linda had been married before, a short marriage that lasted less than a year when she was 22. She didn't like talking about it, only mentioned it was a youthful mistake. Some guy named Richard who worked in insurance and turned out to be controlling and emotionally distant. I never pressed for details. I'd never been married before, so our marriage together was my first and, as I thought, my only one. The first 5 years were genuinely good. We bought a small house on the outskirts of Arlington with a backyard where Linda planted a flower garden, roses, tulips, and those bright orange marigolds she loved. I set up a small garage for my projects. We had 2 children, Jessica, who's now 6, and little Tyler, who's 4. Jessica has my dark hair and Linda's blue eyes, while Tyler is all Linda with his blonde curls and mischievous grin. Evenings were our special time. We'd sit on the porch, watching the kids chase fireflies in the warm Texas twilight, and discuss plans for the future. Linda dreamed of a vacation in Colorado. She'd never seen the mountains and wanted to show the kids snow. I wanted to open my own custom shop, something that specialized in classic American muscle cars. We talked about everything, from silly things at her office like when her boss Mr. Patterson forgot where he put his glasses for the 3rd time that week, to my stories from the shop. I remember the conversations vividly. Linda would tell me about the cases the firm was working on. Nothing confidential, just the amusing human drama that unfolded in a law office. Like the time a client insisted on bringing his parrot to a meeting because it was his emotional support animal, and the bird kept interrupting by squawking, "Objection," at random moments. We'd laugh about it together while doing dishes after dinner, and I'd share my day with her. Like the elderly woman who brought in her late husband's 1965 Thunderbird, tears in her eyes, asking if I could make it run one more time so she could drive it to their favorite spot by the lake. I worked on that car for 3 weeks, wouldn't charge her more than parts cost. When she drove it away, the smile on her face made every hour worth it. Linda hugged me that evening and told me I was a good man. I believed her. One particular incident from last summer stands out. A guy brought in a Mustang 1967 in terrible condition. The engine was seized, the body was rusted in places, and the interior looked like mice had been living in it for a decade. But the owner, a man named Frank, wanted to restore it for his son's 18th birthday. His boy had always dreamed of owning a classic Mustang just like in the old Steve McQueen movie. I worked on that car for 3 months. Rebuilt the entire engine, sourced original parts from junkyards and collectors across Texas, spent weekends carefully restoring the chrome and bodywork. When I finally finished and Frank brought his son to pick it up, the kid just stood there staring at it, mouth open. Then he started crying, tears of pure joy. He hugged his dad, then hugged me, couldn't stop thanking me. Linda came to the shop that day with the kids. Jessica and Tyler were excited to see Daddy's work. We all celebrated together. Frank bought pizza for everyone and we sat in the shop's small office eating and laughing. Linda squeezed my hand under the table and whispered, "I'm so proud of you." Those were the moments when I felt like my life had meaning, like everything made sense. We had our routines. Saturday mornings I'd make pancakes while Linda slept in, the only day she allowed herself that luxury. Sunday afternoons we'd take the kids to the park or sometimes drive out to Lake Arlington for a picnic. Weeknight dinners were family time, no phones allowed at the table. We'd talk about our days, help Jessica with her homework, listen to Tyler's elaborate stories about his adventures at preschool. But something started changing this fall. September had just begun, the leaves on the trees around our house were just starting to turn yellow, when I noticed the first strange things. The air had that crisp quality that comes with autumn in Texas. Still warm during the day but cooling down at night, Perfect weather for sitting on the porch with a beer after the kids went to bed. Linda started staying late at work. Lots of paperwork before the trial, she'd explain. Then new habits appeared. She started closing her phone screen when I entered the room, took her phone with her even to the bathroom. She'd always been open with her phone before. Hell, we used to share funny memes and videos constantly throughout the day. Now her phone might as well have been locked in a vault. I noticed other things too. She started going to the grocery store more often. 2, sometimes 3 times a week when we used to do one big shop on Saturdays. She'd come back with barely any groceries, claiming she forgot half the list. Her work clothes changed slightly, nothing dramatic, but she started wearing the outfits I knew she considered her most flattering ones more frequently. The perfume got reapplied before she came home. Little things that individually meant nothing but together formed a pattern I didn't want to see. One evening in mid-October, I woke up at 3 in the morning and found Linda wasn't in bed. The sheets on her side were cold, she'd been gone a while. I found her in the kitchen, sitting in the dark with her phone, laughing quietly at something. The blue light from the screen illuminated her face, and she looked happy in a way I hadn't seen her look at me in months. When I turned on the light, she flinched and quickly locked the screen. "Can't sleep?" I asked, trying to keep my voice casual. "Yeah, just scrolling through news," she answered, but in her eyes I saw something that looked like guilt. Or maybe I was projecting. Maybe I was looking for signs of something I feared. "Come back to bed," I said. "It's late." "In a minute," she replied, but she didn't move until I'd already left the kitchen. The next morning, when Linda went to work and the kids were at daycare, I did something I'd never done before. I logged into her laptop. I knew the password because we'd always trusted each other. Or so I thought. The password was Arlington 2017, the year we bought our house. Such a simple thing, a symbol of our shared life together. My hands trembled as I typed it in. Part of me hoped I wouldn't find anything, that I was being paranoid and ridiculous. The other part, the part that had been noticing all those little changes, knew better. The first thing I opened was Facebook. And there, in private messages, I found a conversation with a man named Hank. The messages were intimate. Too intimate. They wrote about meetings, about how good they were together, about a hotel outside the city where they'd met last week. I scrolled further and learned that Hank had been her boyfriend before her first marriage to Richard. "He's a director, lives in Dallas and works on independent films. Can't wait to see you again, my love," he wrote. "Me too." "Gary suspects nothing," Linda replied. My stomach turned. I felt physically sick, like someone had punched me in the gut and kept punching. This was my wife. The woman I'd pledged my life to. The mother of my children. Writing to another man, calling him my love. Arranging secret meetings. I opened Instagram, then email. And there I found even more. Turns out Hank wasn't the only one. There were emails from someone named Walt, who works as a photographer, and messages from Howard, an actor from the local theater. 3 men. My wife was seeing 3 different men behind my back. Walt's messages were from her work email, which she'd apparently thought was safer. They'd been seeing each other since July. He'd send her pictures he'd taken, artistic shots of landscapes and buildings, but the messages that accompanied them made it clear they were more than friends. "Thinking of you behind the camera today," he wrote. "Wish you were my subject." And Linda replied with things that made my skin crawl. Howard's messages were on Instagram, hidden in a separate message thread she'd archived. They'd met at some theater fundraiser the law firm had sponsored back in June. He was charming in his messages, theatrical, everything I wasn't. "My beautiful muse," he called her. She ate it up. How long had this been going on? I started digging deeper. The first messages with Hank dated back to May. So 5 months. 5 months of lies while I worked, took care of the kids, believed in our marriage. 5 months of coming home to her kisses and, "How was your day, honey?" while she'd been with other men. The messages with Hank were the most extensive. They'd been seeing each other at a motel called the Starlight Inn, about 40 minutes outside Arlington on the highway toward Dallas. A cheap place that rented rooms by the hour, the kind of place you'd never go unless you had something to hide. They met there every week, sometimes twice a week. While I thought she was working late or having drinks with her coworker Vivian, she was with him. I read through months of their conversations. They talked about me sometimes. Linda complained that I was too focused on work, that I didn't understand her creative side. Creative side? She'd never mentioned having a creative side. Hank, apparently, was working on some independent film project and promised her a role as an extra. She was excited about it like a teenager meeting a celebrity. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel and click like if you enjoy this story. I always read your comments and analyze which stories you like best so that I can create better stories. Thank you, I will continue the story. But what hurt most wasn't the affair itself. It was reading how she really felt about me. Gary is safe, she wrote to Hank. He's reliable. He's a good father. But he's not exciting. He doesn't make me feel alive like you do. Say, reliable. Like I was a piece of furniture or a dependable appliance. 7 years of marriage reduced to those words. I closed the laptop and just sat on our couch, staring into emptiness. The house was quiet. Jessica's toys were scattered across the living room floor, her dolls, Tyler's toy trucks. Pictures of our family hung on the walls. Our wedding photo above the fireplace, Linda in her white dress, me in my rented tux, both of us smiling like we'd won the lottery. What a fucking lie. What should I do? Confront her immediately? Wait and gather more evidence? Part of me wanted to wait until she got home and lay it all out, watch her try to explain away months of betrayal. But another part, a colder and more calculating part, told me to act differently. I needed to think. I needed a plan. Because if I confronted her now, angry and hurt, I might do something stupid. I might say things I'd regret. And more importantly, I might lose leverage. In Texas, adultery doesn't technically affect divorce proceedings, it's a no-fault state. But documentation of infidelity could help with child custody and the division of assets. It could ensure I kept my kids. I said nothing to Linda that evening. Behaved as usual. We had dinner, watched a cartoon with the kids, she read them a bedtime story. I watched her and thought, how can she do all this so calmly? How can you kiss your children goodnight knowing you'll be going to your lover tomorrow morning? How can you smile at your husband while planning your next secret meeting? After the kids were asleep, we sat on the couch watching TV like we did most nights. Linda curled up next to me, her head on my shoulder. It felt like a performance, like she was playing the role of loving wife while thinking about someone else. I wanted to push her away, to shout at her, to demand the truth. But I stayed quiet. I wrapped my arm around her and focused on breathing normally. You okay? She asked at one point. You seem distant. The irony wasn't lost on me. Just tired, I said. Long day at the shop. You worked too hard, she murmured, then kissed my cheek and went to bed. I stayed up late that night, sitting in the garage with my father's old Mustang. I'd go there sometimes when I needed to think, just sit in the driver's seat and feel close to him. I wished he was still alive. I wished I could ask him what to do. He'd been married to my mother for 42 years before he died. They'd had their problems, sure, but they'd worked through them. They'd been partners in the truest sense. The next 2 weeks I lived in some strange split reality. During the day I worked at the shop, laughed at clients' jokes, repaired cars. A regular customer named Pete brought in his Camaro for a tune-up and spent an hour talking about his upcoming anniversary with his wife, 30 years together. I smiled and congratulated him while feeling like a fraud. In the evenings I played with the kids, talked to Linda about daily trivialities. And at night, when everyone slept, I sat and planned. I called a lawyer, an old friend from high school named Brent. We'd played football together, kept in touch over the years. I didn't tell him details, just asked about divorce procedures in Texas, child custody, division of property. Brent could hear something in my voice because he didn't ask questions, just gave me the information I needed and the contact info for a good family law attorney. Gary, he said before we hung up, whatever you're going through, I'm here if you need to talk. Thanks, man, I said. I'll let you know. Linda continued seeing Hank. I watched her texting with him when she thought I wasn't looking. Once I heard her whispering on the phone in the garage, thinking I was in the shower. I love you too. I promise. The words cut through me like glass. She saw Walt on her lunch breaks. I found receipts from a hotel downtown in her purse when I was looking for grocery money she'd borrowed. The Hampton Inn charged $89 for daytime rates. She'd been there 4 times in the past month according to her credit card statement, which came in the mail while she was at work. Howard apparently was different. He was the emotional affair, as they called it in the messages. They'd meet for coffee, take walks in the park, have long conversations about art and theater and all the things she claimed I didn't understand. He hadn't slept with her yet, according to the messages, but he wanted to. When you're ready, he wrote, I'll be waiting. I documented everything. Screenshots of conversations. Copies of credit card statements. The email from the Starlight and confirming a reservation in her name. Hotel receipts. I created a folder on my work computer labeled Mustang Project and stored everything there. Nobody would think to look in files about car restoration for evidence of adultery. On the last Saturday of October, Linda told me she was going with her friend Vivian for a spa day in Austin. They'd leave early in the morning, come back late in the evening. I nodded, smiled, kissed her goodbye. The kids were at my parents' place for the weekend. They'd taken them to some pumpkin patch out in the country. Have fun, I told Linda. You deserve a relaxing day. Thanks, honey, she said, and I watched her drive away in her Honda Civic, heading not toward Austin but toward Dallas. Toward Hank. When she was gone, I called Vivian. Hi, Gary. What's up? She answered, surprised. Nothing special, just wanted to confirm what time you guys are getting back today from Austin with Linda? Pause. A long pause. Gary, I'm not going anywhere with Linda today. We haven't even talked this week. Is everything okay? Yeah, everything's fine, I lied. I must have gotten confused about the dates. Thanks, Vivian. Is Linda okay? Should I call her? No need. I'll talk to her. Thanks. I hung up. So the hotel outside town. Probably the same one they'd written about. The Starlight Inn, that seedy roadside motel between Arlington and Dallas where you could meet without fear of anyone recognizing you. I could have driven there, made a scene, taken photos of them together. Part of me wanted to. I wanted to kick down that motel room door and see the look on her face when she realized I knew everything. I wanted to confront this Hank guy, this director, who'd stolen my wife. But what would that accomplish? Drama? A scene? Maybe even a fight? I already knew everything I needed to know. The evidence was in the conversations I'd copied. Witnesses weren't necessary. Texas is a no-fault state where you don't need to prove adultery for divorce, though this evidence would help with custody and show her character to the judge. Instead, I met with the attorney Brent had recommended. Her name was Margaret Chin. Wait, no, Margaret Stevens. She was a sharp woman in her 50s who'd handled family law cases for 30 years. I brought her the screenshots, told her everything. She nodded, took notes, built a strategy. You have several options, she said. You can file for divorce right now or talk to her first. I want to do it in a way where she suspects nothing until the last moment, I replied. That's viable, Margaret said. But be prepared, once she's served papers, things will get messy. She might fight for the kids, for the house. Do you have a plan for that? I want custody, I said. Primary custody. She can have visitation, but those kids need stability, and she's clearly not providing that. The evidence of adultery will help, Margaret agreed. Texas courts consider moral character when determining what's in the best interest of the children. Multiple affairs, lying, secret hotel meetings, that paints a picture. But you need to be prepared for this to get ugly. We drafted the documents. I signed everything necessary. Margaret said the process would be quick, assuming Linda didn't put up a fight. If she did, we'd be in court for months, maybe longer. But with the evidence we had, she was confident we'd win on custody. One more thing, Margaret said as I was leaving. Don't confront her before she's served. Don't tip your hand. If she thinks you know, she might move money around, hide assets, create problems. Let the papers be the first she hears of it. Linda came back that evening at 9, relaxed and satisfied. Her hair was slightly messed up and I could smell cologne on her, not mine. Hank's, presumably. She'd showered but not well enough. The evidence was there if you knew to look for it. How was your day? I asked, my voice steady. Wonderful. Vivian and I had such a great time. The massage was incredible. The lie rolled off her tongue so easily, so naturally. How many times over these months had she lied to me? How many times had she looked me in the eyes and told me untruths? How many times had she come home from being with another man and kissed me hello? That's great, I said. I'm glad you had fun. You want some dinner? I saved you some pasta. That's sweet, but I'm not hungry. We had a big lunch in Austin. Another lie. She'd probably eaten at some restaurant with Hank after their afternoon at the motel. I watched her walk to the bedroom, watched her carelessly toss her purse on the dresser, watched her start getting ready for bed like this was just another normal evening in our normal life. I slept on the couch that night. Told her I didn't want to wake her since she'd had such a long day. She accepted that without question. On Monday morning, when Linda was getting ready for work, there was a knock at the door. I opened it. A courier stood there with an envelope. Linda Morrison? He asked. Yes, one moment. I called Linda. She came over, smiling, took the envelope, opened it right there in the entryway. I watched as the smile slowly disappeared from her face as she read the first lines. Divorce papers. Gary, what is this? Her voice trembled. It's what you see. I want a divorce. But why? What happened? I pulled out my phone, opened the screenshots of her conversation with Hank. That's why. Linda went pale. Her hand with the documents dropped. I can explain everything. No need, I interrupted. I know about Hank, about Walt, about Howard. I know everything. Her eyes widened. She thought I only knew about Hank. She hadn't expected me to know about the others. The full extent of her betrayal was now laid bare between us. It's not, they don't mean anything. It's you I love. We can fix this. We can go to counseling. Please, Gary, don't throw away 7 years because of a mistake. A mistake, I said, and I could hear the ice in my own voice. A mistake is forgetting to buy milk at the store. A mistake is being late to dinner. 5 months of fucking 3 different men while I'm at home with our kids. That's not a mistake, Linda. That's a choice. Multiple choices. Hundreds of choices you made every single day to betray me and our family. She started crying, saying it didn't mean anything, that she didn't want to lose me, that everything could be fixed. But I just stood there looking at her like she was a stranger. Because in that moment she was. The woman I'd married, the woman I'd loved, the woman I'd built a life with, she was gone. Maybe she'd never really existed. Your things I've already packed, I said. They're in the bedroom. You can take them and go. The kids will stay with me. You can't take my children from me. I can. And I will. The lawyer says the evidence of adultery will help. But if you don't fight me, we'll agree on split custody. You can see them on weekends, holidays. But if you make this difficult, if you try to fight me for primary custody, I'll make sure every detail of your affairs comes out in court. Every hotel receipt. Every text message. Every lie. Is that what you want? Linda collapsed onto the hallway floor, sobbing. Please, Gary. Please. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant to hurt you. But you did, I said quietly. You hurt me more than I thought possible. And worse, you hurt our kids. They're going to grow up in a broken home because you couldn't keep your wedding vows. I left her there crying and went to my parents' house to pick up Jessica and Tyler. My mother took one look at my face and knew something terrible had happened. Gary? What's wrong? Linda and I are getting divorced, I said simply. Can the kids stay here a few more days while we sort things out? My mother hugged me, and for the first time since I discovered the truth, I let myself feel it. The betrayal. The pain. The loss. I broke down in my mother's arms like I was a child again. The next few weeks were hard. Harder than I'd imagined. Linda tried to fight the divorce at first, hired a lawyer, contested everything. But the evidence was overwhelming. Vivian, when I told her the truth, agreed to testify that Linda had lied about the spa day. Colleagues from work confirmed they'd seen Linda with an unknown man at a coffee shop downtown. Turned out to be Howard. The barista at that coffee shop remembered them because they came in every Wednesday afternoon for weeks, always sat in the corner booth, always looked cozy. The lawyer depositions were brutal. Linda had to sit there while Margaret laid out every piece of evidence. The screenshots, the hotel receipts, the credit card statements. Her lawyer tried to argue that her personal life shouldn't affect custody, but Margaret countered with a pattern of deception. The time spent away from the children, the moral example being set. Hank even got dragged into it. Margaret subpoenaed him for a deposition. He showed up looking uncomfortable in a suit that didn't fit him right, his director persona deflated in the harsh light of a law office. He admitted to the affair, confirmed they'd been seeing each other since May, confirmed they'd met at the Starlight Inn multiple times. When asked if he knew Linda was married, he nodded. She told me her marriage was essentially over, he said. That she was only staying for the kids. That hurt, hearing those words. Linda had told him our marriage was over while still sharing my bed every night, still saying I love you when I left for work each morning. The level of deception was staggering. The kids took it hard. Jessica kept asking why Mommy wasn't living with us anymore. She'd cry at night wanting her mother. Tyler was too young to fully understand, but he sensed something was wrong. He became clingy, wouldn't let me out of his sight. I tried to keep things normal for them. Same bedtime routine, same meals, same everything. But you can't hide a crumbling family from children who live in it. I let Linda see them every weekend despite the divorce not being final. She'd pick them up on Friday afternoon and bring them back Sunday evening. Jessica would come home quiet, withdrawn. Tyler would be hyper, overstimulated. Linda was trying to be Disney mom, taking them to theme parks and buying them toys to make up for the destruction of their family. It didn't work. Kids aren't stupid. My sister Letitia flew in from Houston when she heard what happened. She stayed for a week, helped with the kids, cooked meals, provided support. Letitia had never really liked Linda. She'd always thought Linda was too focused on appearance, too concerned with what others thought. I never said anything because you seemed happy, Letitia told me. But I'm not surprised this happened. She always seemed like she was looking for something else. The divorce finalized in January, 3 months after I'd served her papers. Relatively quick for a contested divorce, but Margaret was good at her job. Linda got visitation every other weekend and alternating holidays. The house stayed with me. I had to take out a loan to pay her share of the equity, but it was worth it to keep the kids in their home. She didn't fight me on it, probably felt guilty enough to let it go without a battle. The garage and my tools stayed with me, obviously. We split the cars, she took the Honda, I kept my pickup truck. Bank accounts were divided 50-50. She had to pay a portion of the attorney fees since the divorce was deemed her fault. Texas might be no fault, but judges have discretion on costs, and ours made it clear he didn't approve of Linda's behavior. Hank and Linda were still together. I heard through mutual friends that they'd made it official, that she'd moved into an apartment in Dallas to be closer to him. The independent film he was working on had apparently gotten some funding, and he'd given Linda a small role in it. Ironic that her affair had started with promises of making her dreams come true, and now she was actually getting that. Whether the relationship would last was anyone's guess. Relationships built on betrayal rarely did. Walt and Howard had apparently faded away once they realized Linda was serious about Hank. Or maybe she dropped them once she didn't need to hide anymore. I didn't care enough to find out. 3 months after the divorce I was doing okay. Not great but okay. The kids had adjusted to the new routine. Jessica had stopped crying every night. Tyler had relaxed a bit, though he still had moments of clinginess. We'd established new traditions: Friday night pizza, Saturday morning cartoons, Sunday afternoon walks in the park. I'd started going to a divorce support group that met at a community center on Tuesday evenings. Sat in a circle with other people whose lives had been torn apart by betrayal and circumstance. Heard their stories, shared mine. It helped, knowing I wasn't alone in this pain. One of the members, a guy named Stan, had been through something similar 3 years ago. His wife had left him for her boss, taken half his retirement, moved across the country. It gets better, he told me after one meeting. Not faster, but it gets better. One day you'll realize you haven't thought about her in hours. Then days. Then you'll realize you're actually happy again. I wasn't there yet, but I was trying. Work helped. The shop stayed busy through winter. People always need car repairs, especially with the cold weather causing problems with batteries and engines. I threw myself into it, took on extra projects, stayed late some nights working on restorations. Pete's Camaro needed a full engine rebuild, which kept me occupied for weeks. Another customer wanted his late father's Corvette restored, a 1972 Stingray that had been sitting in a barn for 15 years. Projects like these, bringing dead machines back to life, gave me a sense of purpose when everything else felt meaningless. My friend from the shop, a guy named Charlie who'd worked with me for 5 years, figured out something was wrong early on. He didn't push, just offered to help with the kids when I needed it, covered for me when I had lawyer appointments. "You're a good man, Gary," he said one day while we were rebuilding a transmission together. "Whatever you're going through, you'll come out the other side." "Thanks, Charlie," I said and meant it. In March, I ran into Linda at the grocery store. She was with Hank. I recognized him from the photos on his Facebook page I'd seen during my investigation. They were shopping together, looking domestic, picking out produce like a normal couple. Linda saw me and froze. Hank looked confused, then realized who I was. Jessica and Tyler were with me, pushing the cart excitedly as I let them pick out cereals. They saw their mother and ran to her. Linda hugged them, tears in her eyes. Hank stood there awkwardly, clearly unsure of his place in this scenario. "Hi, Gary," Linda said quietly when she'd released the kids. "Linda," I nodded. Then to Hank, "You must be Hank." He extended his hand. I looked at it but didn't take it. After a moment he withdrew it awkwardly. "Kids, say hi to your mom's friend," I said, keeping my voice neutral. "We need to finish shopping. Grandma's waiting for us for dinner. Can we come to your place sometime?" Jessica asked Linda. "I want to see where you live now." "Of course, sweetie," Linda said. "Next weekend when you visit, okay?" We finished our shopping quickly after that and left. In the car, Jessica asked, "Daddy, was that Mommy's boyfriend?" "Yes," I said simply. No point in lying to her. She was old enough to understand, at least partially. "Do you have a girlfriend?" Tyler asked from his car seat. "No, buddy. Right now it's just us 3. "That's okay," Jessica said wisely, far too wisely for a 6-year-old. "We're a good team." "Yeah," I agreed, feeling emotion catch in my throat. "We're a great team." April brought warmer weather and new beginnings. The flower garden Linda had planted years ago bloomed, roses and tulips and those orange marigolds she'd loved. I'd kept it maintained through the winter, more for the kids than anything. Jessica liked picking flowers to put in a vase on the kitchen table. I heard through Letitia, who'd heard from a mutual friend, that Hank's film project had fallen through. The funding had dried up and he was back to working freelance gigs to make rent. Linda had apparently gotten a better job, secretary at a bigger law firm in Dallas that paid more. Ironic that she was supporting them both now. I didn't feel satisfaction from their struggles. I didn't feel anything really. They were just people I used to know, living their lives separate from mine. One Saturday in May, almost a year after I'd first discovered the truth, I was working in the garage on my father's old Mustang. Jessica came out with a drawing she'd made, our family, her and Tyler and me standing in front of our house. No Linda in the picture. Not out of malice, just absence. "This is beautiful, Jess," I told her, hugging her close. "We'll put it on the fridge." "Daddy?" she asked. "Are you sad?" "Sometimes," I admitted. "But mostly I'm happy because I have you and Tyler." "We love you," she said simply. "I love you too, sweetheart. More than anything." Tyler ran out then, covered in marker from an art project gone wrong, and the moment passed into the chaos of normal family life. I thought about Linda sometimes late at night when the house was quiet. Wondered if she was happy with Hank. Wondered if she regretted her choices. Wondered if she ever thought about what we could have had if she'd just been honest, if she'd just talked to me instead of seeking excitement elsewhere. But mostly I thought about my kids and the future we'd build together. About the shop and the cars I'd restore. About the man I wanted to be, someone Jessica and Tyler could be proud of, someone who modeled integrity and honesty even when it was hard. Linda lives her life now with Hank. I heard they're planning to move to Los Angeles. He's got another film project that might actually happen this time. She asked if she could take the kids with her. I said no. My lawyer said if she moves to another state, we can petition for full custody based on distance and disruption to the children's lives. She hasn't moved yet, but the threat hangs there. 7 years of marriage ended. But life continues. And maybe that's the real lesson in all of this. Life doesn't stop for heartbreak. The sun still rises. Your kids still need breakfast. Cars still need fixing. You still have to get up every morning and put one foot in front of the other, even when your world has fallen apart. Yesterday, Tyler asked me if Mommy and I would ever get back together. He's heard his friend's parents reconciled after a separation. "No, buddy," I told him gently. "Sometimes when people make certain choices, there's no going back. But that doesn't mean we love you any less. You and Jessica will always have two parents who love you more than anything." "Even if they don't love each other?" he asked, his 4-year-old brain trying to work it out. "Even then," I confirmed. "Do I still love Linda? No, I don't think I do. What I loved was the idea of her, the woman I thought she was. The real Linda, the one who could lie and cheat and betray without apparent remorse. That person I never really knew. Maybe she never existed. Maybe I created her in my imagination, and the real Linda was always someone else. But I learned something from all this. I learned that trust, once broken, can't really be repaired. I learned that people show you who they are through their actions, not their words. I learned that sometimes the hardest thing and the right thing are the same thing. And I learned that I'm stronger than I thought I was. I'm 34 now. Still young. Still have most of my life ahead of me. Maybe someday I'll meet someone else, someone I can trust, someone who values honesty and commitment. Or maybe I won't. Either way, I'll be okay. Because I have Jessica and Tyler, I have my work, I have my life. And Linda? She has Hank in Los Angeles and whatever future they build together. I genuinely hope she finds whatever she was looking for. I hope Hank makes her happy in ways I apparently couldn't. I hope she becomes the person she wants to be. But more than anything, I hope my kids grow up understanding that real love, real commitment, means staying even when it's hard, working through problems instead of running from them, choosing your family every single day. Because that's what I'll do. Every single day for the rest of my life. I'll choose my kids. I'll choose integrity. I'll choose being the kind of man my father was. Someone who keeps his promises, someone who values family, someone who does the right thing even when it cost him everything. Thank you for watching this video. YouTube may no longer suggest my channel to you, so subscribe to it to receive new interesting stories. You will also help the channel grow and improve the quality of its content. The screen now displays a playlist with other interesting stories that you can listen to. You can also write in the comments what stories you would like to see on the channel.